So, Natalie,
We're going to start off with a statement, if it's okay. So, on behalf of the Box Elder County Commissioner, I'm Commissioner Lee Perry. I want to thank you everyone who's participated in this process. Today, our Box Elder County Commission voted to approve consent for the Military Installation Development Authority, or MIDA, to move forward with the proposed Stratus project area in western Box Elder County. This has not been a simple decision. Over the past several weeks, we have taken time to do our due diligence, meet with stakeholders, and most importantly, gather input from our community. We did so transparently by creating a project information page on the county website. We opened a public feedback form, and we carefully reviewed more than 2,500 comments. Those comments reflected a wide range of perspectives, some supporting and others opposing the project. We considered all of them in our decision-making process. And I want to make it clear today, today's vote is not the end of the process, it is the beginning. If this project moves forward, it will happen in phases over many years. At every step, it will be subject to continued oversight, permitting, and regulatory review. As a commission, we will ensure that the development is done responsibly and in a manner that protects the best interests of the Box Elder County and its residents. At the same time, we recognize the Stratus project represents a significant opportunity. It has the potential to bring long-term economic investment, infrastructure and improvements, and new jobs to our county, which will benefit our residents, businesses, and schools. At the same time, we understand the importance of addressing concerns regarding water use, air quality, and noise levels. The Commission believes that with the proper oversight, the Stratus project can effectively balance these concerns. To everyone who took time to share their thoughts, ask questions, and stay involved, we thank you. Your input has mattered, and it will continue to matter as this process moves forward. We will continue to provide information, engage with the public, and work with MIDA and the project developers to ensure transparency and accountability. The next step, we're hoping, is to arrange town hall meetings at which MIDA and the developers can provide more information and answer residents' questions. The dates and times will eventually be announced as we get moving forward with this, and as soon as they can get scheduled. That is our statement on behalf of the County Commission. Thank you.
so Natalie Waters, KUTV. First question, for the layperson out there, can you explain exactly what happened here today with the two resolutions that were approved?
Basically, what the two resolutions we did today is we have private property and we have no zoning laws in our state. So what we did is first, we passed the first resolution was putting some guidelines, some guardrails in place to protect the citizens and the people of Box Elder County. That was the first part that we took care of. The second resolution is that we are accepting the fact that we're allowing MIDA to come in and basically run an operation within Box Elder County in this MIDA controlled area, which is part of that process we put in place, and that continued effort we're going to move forward with.
You said there's an if, so this isn't all set in stone from here out?
As
You said something like, if this moves forward, so it's not set in stone. Is that correct?
It would be up to the developer. Yeah, this is the development and MIDA moving forward, but we have turned the project to MIDA for moving forward. If for that perspective, that's a question MIDA would have to answer.
Maybe a question for the developer. Do you have investment money lined up, and what's the timeline for things to get rolling?
Yeah, thank you. We do have investment. There will be a capital raising effort that will be undertaken now that this approval has been made, and so that'll be something that starts over the next about 60 days.
How much?
Well, the entire project is a significant project, over $1 billion project. There'll be phases to that capital raising effort.
When would we expect to see the first phase?
The first phase will start in the next few months.
There was massive opposition out there. We all saw and heard it. Given that, one, were you expecting that sort of a response from your community? And two, what would you have to say to those folks out there now that are very upset?
Well, I would say that I saw a lot of my community members that were more upset by people from not in this community, that we're not allowing them to listen and absorb the information that we're trying to share with them. Yes, there's going to be some in our community that were not happy with the decision we made today, But there are also members of our community that are gonna be very pleased by the decision we made today. And that's the process that we have to do as a government entity.
What about all
The impact-
citizens? Oh, what about all citizens of Utah where you might have, I mean, people came here from all over. I met people from Salt Lake, Ogden, everywhere, who are all very upset about, water usage, especially going to the Great Salt Lake and taking that out. Wouldn't this still affect everybody here, or just because it's your community, do you still feel like you're responsible for a decision that will affect all Utahns?
Our vote today had nothing to do with water or air quality. Again, those are not issues that the county has any control over. Those are state-run parks. And as you heard today from the professionals, those water rights are owned by individuals. Again, I don't have any control. I can't be the king and tell them they can't use their water for what they want to use it for. So the water issue, it's up to the private landowners who own those to do what they did with it. And as far as air quality and water values, et cetera, that deals with the state of Utah and their part in DEQ and dealing with that, which we heard from our county attorney's office explaining today.
And commissioners, last meeting you kind of talked about your frustrations with state leaders making deals behind doors, not letting you in on this until the last minute. How are you feeling today, especially with a crowd like that? You're the ones who are facing opposition out there.
We certainly wish that we would have been brought to the table sooner. But the situation is where it's at, and the situation, in order for us to protect our county where we were at, needed to happen the way it did today. We didn't have the ability to take more time. We really needed to make sure that what has occurred the way it did.
Going into that meeting a week ago, I know one of you all had mentioned that because of that lack of information, going into last Monday's meeting, you would have all voted no. What's changed?
I don't recall any of us saying we would have voted no.
Yeah.
Maybe one of us.
Somebody said that.
Okay.
I can't remember which one,
Yeah.
but.
And I don't want to speak for my other fellow commissioners, but I would say that we needed to get more information, and we gathered it over this last week. We have met with hundreds of people and communicated with professionals and experts in all kinds of different categories to gather the information necessary to come to the decision that we came to today.
So are you happy with the decision that was made?
I am pleased by the fact that we could make the decision that I think best protects Box Elder County moving forward.
Could you speak to those guardrails one more time when it comes to what the county is allowed to say to MIDA when this goes?
We'll have people from the county on a board that will help guide and direct MIDA as this project goes forward. We'll have a project manager from the county that will work on that, probably be on that board. We'll also, the guardrails that we're pleased with is, like I said, dark sky, noise ordinances, making sure that with MIDA and the developer that all of the infrastructure is paid for and built by them to the proper standards for the county's betterment and best interest. We put in there even including that they would have to buy a fire truck for the county every 10 years if, depending on the types of buildings they buy, because if they're gonna create something that causes a burden upon the taxpayers, they ought to pay for it, not the taxpayers in the county. So those are some of the many guardrails. There's others in that agreement as well, but we just felt like we had to put things in there that protected this county and the citizens who reside here as best we could.
Question for the O'Leary representative. I guess you've heard a lot of the concerns. What will you do to kind of try and meet in the middle and make sure people's worst nightmares don't come to fruition?
Some of that's just gonna take some time for the residents of Box Elder to see that we are a good partner and we intend to follow through on every part of the agreement that we've agreed to. Additionally, I mean, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, so we'll be spending a lot of time with the community, making sure that they really understand what our development proposes and the systems that we intend to use so as to not have significant impacts on the water and the air. So we do feel like this is something that as time progresses, that we will have the opportunity to really show the members of this community that we are a good partner and that we will be a good partner for many, many years into the future.
When are we expecting an environmental impact study? When would that be ready?
I'm not sure about that.
what misinformation are you talking about, and could you elaborate on what is the misinformation essentially?
Well, I think the amount of water that the system is proposing to use is one major one. We've seen that, you know, a lot of the concern and opposition is related to water, the impact on water going into, or the lack of water being released into the lake. The systems that we intend to use will be water, will be minimal impact on water, and actually use less than the agriculture that is currently allowed in that area.
13,000 acre feet, but that's a lot of water, right?
13,000 acre feet is what what is attached to the 40,000 acres. Our current, for example, our current phase 1, and what we currently have contracted is 3,500 acre feet. So, you know, this will be a phased project. You'll see that it will take, you know, it'll take some time for this project to come to full fruition. And I think by the time we do, I think people will be very happy with what they see.
I'd like to go back to something Commissioner Bingham said when he said that this project would go through no matter what. I'm wondering about the commissioners, how much of your yes vote was kind of weighed against making sure you could secure those guarantees that you thought were important for the county?
For me personally, it was a lot.
All of them, basically. I mean, as a commission, did securing those guarantees weigh a lot into this consent vote?
So I think what he's trying to say is that the land is unzoned, meaning Box Elder County, because that land is unzoned, cannot restrict the use of the land,
Right.
right? And so if a private property owner wants to sell the land, somebody wants to buy it, we have no say, other than personal safety things that we can put in
Sure,
place.
and how much did gaining those guarantees for what you guys wanted to protect the citizens and the good of the county, how much did securing those guarantees weigh into your consent?
For me, that had a lot to do with it. I will tell you, for me personally, that had a lot to do with my decision, was the fact that without those guarantees, because it's unzoned, they can do what they want. They could have done a lot of things a lot worse than what I get by going with the guarantees.
And part of the issue with them being unzoned is, the issue with them being unzoned is that we lose part of that control, right? And so that's a big issue.
And we are, just so everybody knows, as a commission, we have been trying for 2 years to get our county and people in this county to zone their property throughout the county, because we are from what I understand, we are the only county left in the state of Utah that has unzoned property. And one of three.
Three, yeah.
And so our goal with this coming forward is we want to share with our county residents. We're hoping that the people who are currently in unzoned property will come to us and let us zone all of the property so that we can have, as a county, more control going forward to make sure that the citizens have a better chance to talk with our planning and zoning commission as these types of things occur.
Now, I know this vote was delayed a couple of times, but one of the things that we've heard is, what's the rush? Why have to push this through at this specific juncture before, say, an environmental assessment is done?
So one of the major things that we as the developer look at is time and delay can be significant in terms of the capital markets. We are going out, as mentioned before, to raise money for this project, and as that gets delayed, that capital goes elsewhere. Those markets don't wait. They go where the next deal is, and so that's part of our reason for wanting to move forward quickly. The other reality is that we have currently contracted for the power generation that we will be utilizing on site, and if we don't have that in place, that will go to another project. So it was important for us to take advantage of this timeline in order to be able to make sure that this development could happen.
Mr. Morris, maybe you could speak to the military mission component of the importance of time.
So MIDA was approached by the Assistant Undersecretary for the Air Force. He came to Utah and said that all of the military, Army, Air Force, everyone, there's an executive order from President Trump that said that we have to have some hyperscale data centers and power resiliency across this country in locations. And he asked us specifically, can you work with somebody to find it in Utah to start? Because it's a national security imperative. Number two, we know that some of their users are going to be directly benefiting our national security defense. And then number three, in addition to the revenue benefit that they're going to get for the county and their protection, there's also revenue benefit that go to Hill Air Force Base, and there's 27 properties of the Utah National Guard from the north to the south. So we'll be able to invest in our military at those locations. So for those three reasons, we knew there was really a military imperative.
And I imagine it goes to that reasoning, but why Utah and why this location?
The pipeline that they talked about is a perfect place to generate power that does not take from the grid, does not increase the rates for the citizens. It's not even on the meter, it's not even tied to the grid. So it'll be 100% generated for them, which is one of the problems across the country, is these data centers come in and then they want to take from the existing power, the existing utility, and then it limits growth in other areas and people are concerned about the rates raising. That's not the case here. It's 100% self-contained. Not only that, they believe that as they build out, they will have excess power. So one of the goals in the future is to figure out how to actually get an interconnect and tie it to the grid so they can offload power and actually supplement and help the grid. So we think it's a real win-win when it comes to what they're proposing with regards to power. And same with the water.
So what will it do for Hill Air Force Base?
So the way this is designed and the way MIDA law works is some of the revenue that we receive doesn't have to just be spent here. It can be spent at Hill Air Force Base. We have the Falcon Hill project area, and then there's a long list of military needs that they have there, as well as the Utah National Guard. So there'll be a revenue source, as well as the fact that it's gonna, the compute power that's being used at this data center will directly benefit the military and the defense.
How much power do you think the data center itself will consume? Because it will generate 9 gigawatts, but how many will it consume?
Their first phase and the first minimum, when they talk about the 30 million minimum and the 108 million, that 30 million is 3 gigawatts.
And then when it's fully built out?
Well, that's the 9.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
So it will consume the 9 gigawatts?
Well, no, they indicate, they think that it will have, it won't be exact when they put a module in that has certain gigawatts of power, that's enough for the data center, and then it can have excess that can be put back on the grid. But we will have to figure out how to do an interconnect in order for that to happen. But they believe that they will have more than they need, that they can actually benefit Utah generally.
And will Hill Air Force Base be using these data centers, the private sector, the defense industry? Can you speak to who?
We'll be making a presentation to the board in the future of the specifics, but there will be we believe direct usage and benefit from what's happening in this data center for national security.
Can't be more specific.
No, not right now.
If
Alright.
this is so imperative.
This is the last question.
Okay, sorry. If this is so imperative, then you wanna be good partners to the community, as you say. Why not have some of those town halls before these votes came? Why not try to allay some of those fears and frustrations we saw out in the room?
As the commissioner has mentioned, you know, I think that was an unfortunate part of the process. We were under the understanding that that was being communicated to them, and it wasn't. So that was, you know, just a part of the process that certainly could have been improved upon, and it is unfortunate that it happened the way that it did. But no one sitting here is really at fault for that. It's just, we thought communication was occurring at the commission level, and it wasn't.
And I know that was less, but just to close it out, can you speak to what opportunities the public will have moving forward to weigh in on where this goes?
Well, as mentioned in the meeting, you can still share impact. We still have that website up where they can continue to send emails and share it. But again, going forward, as we also mentioned in there, at this point, as they issue their first building permits in it, will now trigger the ability for DEQ to do their job, working with MIDA and doing those kind of things. And that's where, again, the public can have their input is through the MIDA board and through the Department of Environmental Quality as they move forward with some of the things that are now, would now be triggered that wouldn't have been triggered prior to this event. And so now some of these other studies can be done moving forward.
The interlocal agreement requires that we have a development review committee. 6 of the 7 will come from Box Elder. They select who they think, we ask them to give us experts, planners, public safety, all those sorts of people, but they decide they're gonna give those 6 names probably at the June MIDA meeting, maybe July, they would be appointed. Then under the standards, the developer has to come in with a master plan. It has to be reviewed by that committee and then also reviewed by the MIDA board. And after that, anything they specifically do has to have meet subdivision requirements, site plan requirements before they can even get a building permit. At the same time, they've got to be applying to the state for their air quality, their water quality, and so on.
So lots of steps to go.
Lots of steps to go. And the DRC would be a public body. Those will all be public meetings.
As I mentioned in our statement, this is a beginning.
A question, but not a question. Can we just remind us your names and titles?
Casey Hill with O'Leary Digital Media and Stratus.
Homeless Executive Director.
And Lee Perry, Box Elder County Commissioner.
Tyler Vincent, Box Elder County Commission.
Boyd Meehan, Box Elder County Commission.
Thank you all very much.
Right here.
Casey Hill.
Thank you. What time is it right now?
5:30.
Well, now, pushing out our press release for the county as well.
Thank you.